Our time is precious. Maybe because you have a house full of company and you just don't want to spend hours in the kitchen cooking. Or maybe it's just been a really long day. You think to yourself, what can I make? Today I'd like to tell you about a quick and very easy recipe that you can fix as a main component for any of your meals of the day. I call it a real grandma's yummy crustless quiche. Are you ready? I'm going to preheat the oven so that it's hot when the food is ready to put in. This is a convection, so I'm going to go ahead and set it to 375. A regular oven, you would make it 400 degrees. The first thing we'll do is prepare our pie dish. You'll take a 9-inch pie pan and put about a generous 2 tablespoons of butter, softened, and we're going to just take this and put it all the way around the edges and on the bottom until you have a nice coating here. I like to use real butter because margarine just kind of has a funny flavor, and the real butter really does taste a lot better. Once you are sure that you have a good coating here, you can take the extra and just put it aside for another usage. And then you're going to take half of your Parmesan cheese from the recipe and sprinkle it generously on the bottom of the pan. That's going to give you somewhat of a feeling of a crust, but it's not truly a crust. It just kind of starts the flavor once you cut into it when it's baked. Okay, great. And then I'm going to set this aside. And here comes the easy part. With your food processor, take a 10-ounce package of spinach that you have thawed. Doesn't matter what brand. And you're going to break it into pieces, squeeze out some of the juice, and then just add it into your food processor. Taking some of the juice out keeps your quiche from becoming too liquidy, but it doesn't hurt to have a little bit of that juice in your quiche. You notice I'm just breaking it into kind of gross chunks because the food processor can really mash it down for me. The next thing I'll do is take 2 whole eggs and 2 egg yolks. So I like to take the whites that are left over and save them. They can always be added to an omelet or some other dish. Personally, when I do this quiche, I start with the egg yolks because that way if I break them, it's not going to be difficult at the end there. And you notice how you can use the cup of the egg to help you have a receptacle to go back and forth. And you're just taking the whites away. And then the rest of it is just going to be the whole egg in the quiche. So I always thought the quiches had a lot of eggs in them, but this recipe really doesn't call for a lot of eggs. It's just these 2 plus the 2 yolks. Next, I'm going to take some green onion that I've already cut up and some half and half out of the refrigerator. The green onion adds more green, but more importantly, some really yummy flavor. And 2 cups of half and half. If you were trying to go low fat, you could use just regular milk, but the half and half is a really good component for keeping it rich and very yummy. Then you'll take 2 tablespoons of flour. In this case, because I didn't really squeeze my spinach out really hard, I'm going to put 2.5 tablespoons. And salt and pepper to taste. Then go ahead and grate up your smoky cheese that's in the recipe. So 4 ounces is the same as 1 cup. In this recipe, I decided to use some smoky Gouda, and I'll just take my little grater and grate it Now, one of the things, smoky Gouda is a pretty soft cheese, and so I put it in the freezer for about 10 minutes before I started demonstrating this for you. And it's so much easier to grate. You notice that it's actually coming across the way it should when you're grating. Another way, of course, is you can buy this at the grocery store already grated, but I had some on hand and I thought I would use it. So, that really smells good. I'm going to just put that on the top. And once you have your smoky cheese in, you really could be finished at that point, but I just picked some beautiful fresh basil from my garden. So I'm just going to take some basil, just 2 or 3 leaves should be delicious. Basil smells so beautiful. It's that essence of herbs that it gives off, and I think that's what it will do to this yummy quiche. Just sprinkle it on the top and everything's in there that we need. So we'll put the lid on and just turn it on for about 30 seconds until everything is mixed and together. And that's it. Looking at the mixture here, you can see that everything is mixed. It's rather green. Smelling it, oh, the essence is just makes your mouth water. So I'm going to pour it into the pan over my Parmesan cheese. Be careful of the sharp blade whenever you're doing this. Get most of it off there. The last little bits. And one more thing to add to it before you put it in the oven, that last little bit of Parmesan cheese that you had, just sprinkle it over the top for a little added flavor. Now, my family likes things a little bit spicy, so I'm going to put just a dash of chili powder over the top. If you want it hotter, you can put a little bit of paprika, or you can just leave it exactly the way it was, but it just kind of added some real pretty color to it, as well as a little bit of a kick. Isn't it beautiful? Let's go ahead and put it in the oven. So I set my timer for 25 minutes. The recipe says it can cook 30 to 45 minutes, but I always like to check things a little bit sooner than the recipe says, because quite frankly, temperatures change oven to oven a little bit, and I'd rather have something that's delicious rather than something burned. So we'll check in when the timer goes off. The timer just went off. Let's go check it real quick. Oh, that looks absolutely beautiful. Notice that the cheese is melted and it's slightly browned. Look how nicely it's kind of domed over because it's cooking inside. We'll get another pot holder here and take it out, and we'll put it on the cooling rack for just a minute. But isn't this beautiful? I'm so pleased with it. Right now, the kitchen just smells delightful. You can smell all of the different herbs and spices and all of those flavors that are going to be so delicious once we try it. We're going to let this cool for at least 15 minutes. Okay, are you ready to try it? Smells delicious. I'm going to remove it from the cooling rack. It's cool enough that I can touch it with my hands. I don't need a pot holder. And let's go ahead and cut a piece here. And I am using a sharp knife just to make sure that I don't ruin the looks of it with the cheese crust. And we'll use a little pie scoop to pull this out. Now sometimes the bottom is a little bit runny. If it is, that's all right. And there it is. Oh my word, this is delicious. The creaminess that the smoked Gouda adds to the spinach and then the Parmesan topping, it just gives a beautiful texture to it, yet it's creamy and full of flavor. There's a very subtle hint of that sweet basil that I pulled from my garden. It's absolutely a delightful dish, and I would encourage you to use it anytime that you don't know what to make for supper, lunch, brunch, breakfast, any meal. I hope you enjoy trying my recipe, a real grandma's yummy crustless quiche. See you next time.